Hi, my name is Daniel Marques and I'm 25 years old. I'm from Brasilia, Brazil. Today, we're going to take a look at the audio basics: propagation, amplitude, frequency, and timbre. This lesson is for week 1 of Introduction to Music Production at Coursera.org. Why are those 4 words related to music production, you may ask? If we could define music production in 2 words, I'd say it would be manipulating sound. But what is sound? How is it produced? Sound is an oscillation of pressure that can be transmitted through a medium, like the air. Those oscillations are longitudinal waves, which means the sound travels in the same direction that it vibrates. For a better understanding, however, we used to represent sound as a transverse wave, like this. To better define what sound is, we must go further. Longitudinal waves that oscillate the pressure of a medium and have frequencies within the range of hearing, which is about 20 to 20,000 Hz for humans, are called sound. The speed of sound varies greatly depending on the medium it is traveling. As an example, when sound propagates in the air at sea level and 20 Celsius, its speed is 343 meters per second, or 1 kilometer in 3 seconds, or 1 mile in 5 seconds. Let's draw 2 transverse lines to help us understand the concept of amplitude and frequency. As I said before, to be considered sound, the longitudinal wave that propagates through a medium must have frequencies within 20 to 20 kHz. But what does it mean physically? Hertz is the number of repetitions in 1 second. So, for sound, it is the number of repetitions of the wave in 1 second, like this. This is a higher frequency sound, and this one is a lower frequency sound. What about amplitude? Well, amplitude is the extent of compression and rarefaction of the air and is measured in decibels. Since it is a relative unit, there are different types of decibels. For example, dBSPL, which stands for sound pressure level, is measured in the air, and its 0 is the threshold of human hearing, a point where we can't hear anything. And from that, we go up indefinitely. Of course, if we hear a sound with a high dBSPL, it could hurt a lot. But there is no maximum value for it. The BFS, which means full scale, is used in the computer, and its 0 is the maximum value of amplitude that a computer can understand, and from that we go down to negative numbers. Now it's time for us to correlate the physical properties of sound to how we perceive it. Amplitude correlates to loudness. The higher the amplitude of a wave, the louder we perceive it, and when the amplitude is low, we perceive the wave as a quiet sound. Frequency correlates to pitch. The higher the frequency, the higher the note we perceive. The lower the frequency, the lower is the note we hear. Now that we know what amplitude and frequency is and how we perceive them, let's take a small test. Imagine these 2 waves. They are identical, right? They have the same frequency and same amplitude, which means that we would perceive them at the same level of loudness and at the same pitch. But what if I said that the top wave is produced by a piano and the bottom wave is produced by a guitar? Why do instruments sound different from each other if physically they produce the same waves? Well, that's not entirely true. We can't look at the sound as something as simple as a single wave. When we play a note in any instrument, or we play the drums, or we sing, we produce a fundamental wave, that is at the frequency in which we perceive and determine the note. Besides that, secondary waves are also produced. They are called the harmonics. The difference between the frequency of the fundamental wave and the frequency of the secondary waves are multiples of 2. The distribution of these harmonics and the fundamental wave is what we perceive as timbre. So, if we want to improve the sound of our mix, one of the ways you can achieve that is by boosting certain frequencies and cutting others. In other words, we would be adjusting the timbre of the sound we've produced. So, let's make a quick review. Sound is the result of the propagation of waves in a medium, which oscillates the pressure of that medium, for example, the air, creating zones of compression and rarefaction. Sound is a longitudinal wave, but we represent it as a transverse wave so we can describe it more clearly. Amplitude is the extent of compression and rarefaction of the air. We perceive it as loudness. Frequency is the number of repetitions of the sound wave in a specific time. We perceive it as pitch. Timbre is the distribution of the harmonics of a fundamental wave. We perceive it as different types of sound, even though they are the same note and are at the same level of loudness. Timbre is what makes a particular sound different from another. Thank you for watching. See you next time.